After many years of waiting, we finally got a sequel to Tomodachi Life, which was one of my personal favorite 3DS games, and probably one of yours too if you're watching this video. I've been playing a lot of Living the Dream since it came out, so I wanted to compare both games. Starting with world design, the 3DS version has a fixed island. Every single copy of the game, every island that has ever existed across every 3DS that has ever had this cartridge in it, has the exact same layout. The apartment building is always in the same spot, the cafe is always in the same spot, the amusement park, the lookout point, the fountain, all of it is identical and immovable regardless of anything you do. The only real creative contribution to the world was naming the island and the Miis that are on it. And that was never a problem, to be clear. It very much felt like a smaller scale 3DS game, and the system probably would have exploded if it let you fully customize the island. I mean, look at how Minecraft ran on the new 3DS. Living the Dream, on the other hand, completely reinvents what the island can be. Your island here is a blank canvas pretty much. You terraform how you want, you place every building yourself, decorate house exteriors, put objects on the ground, whether it's benches, trees, fountains, fences, vending machines, subscribe to domainy signs. I've already made a residential area, a shop district, and some beachfront property for myself. Also, putting Miis I don't like on their own island disconnected from the mainland, like that's where you are, you watching the video. Nah, I'm just kidding. I also have to mention the customization here, even though it has its own category later, because it connects directly to how personal the world feels. The custom design system means you could essentially put anything on your island now, like anything, but I'll get into this more in a later category. The 3DS island was a place you visited, but the Living the Dream island is something that you actually make. You're going to spend a lot of time looking at it, and you're going to care about how it looks. When a Mii walks through a neighborhood you designed and stops at a bench you placed, it feels a lot more personal. I don't think anyone's going to argue with this. Living the Dream wins this one easily. Now I just want to say, if you're a big Tomodachi Life fan, check out these two videos here where I rank the locations in each game, and be sure to subscribe. Now for interactions, this one I keep going back and forth on, so I'm going to spend a lot of time on this. In the 3DS version, your Miis just did things. Not did things when you set up the right conditions. They just did things on their own unprompted while you were gone. You'd open the game on a random Tuesday after school and just find stuff already in progress. You'll find two Miis that you introduced weeks ago hanging out at the cafe. You'll see some at the amusement park, at a barbecue together. It just felt like there was a lot more interesting interactions you would see just going to the different locations. There were also a lot of fights, like there was a real drama here. Miis would get into arguments, the friendships would cool off, and you'd try and mediate it, but that wouldn't always work. And it felt like none of it needed you. That was the whole thing. The island had a life when you weren't there. You were just a visitor checking in, and it didn't feel like you were just managing every interaction here. Living the Dream gives you more control, and that sounds like an upgrade. You can drag Miis over to each other, introduce people yourself, place Miis in specific spots, and watch what happens. The warm fuzzy system, which I'll get to later, rewards you for facilitating connections, so there is always a reason to be involved. And none of that is bad. I don't think it's a negative that you can try and make more friendships. If you want two specific Miis be friends, it's a lot easier here. But also it feels like almost nothing happens without your involvement. Miis feel like they're waiting for your go-ahead, and you mostly have to formally introduce two Miis before they'll consider becoming friends. They can occasionally seek each other out on their own, but I've pretty much only seen it from Miis that I initially set up. They don't reliably find each other, they don't drift towards someone they have things in common with. Like, you're just the matchmaker here, whether you want to be or not. In the 3DS version, it feels like the Miis will just randomly say they want to be friends with someone that might surprise you. In Living the Dream, you're the one who made it start. Living the Dream does have one new interaction thing I want to give a credit to before moving on, which is the shared housing system. Miis could choose to move in together, and when they do, the house upgrades into a full mansion with a shared common room, and each Mii gets their own individual room. You can name the household, and up to 8 Miis can share one house. Like, that is a lot of Miis living in one house. You'll get unique dialogue from this, and also it's just fun to see who becomes roommates with who. Like, I just made Walter White and Tony Soprano on my island, and I'm hoping they become roommates. And this is something the 3DS had nothing close to. The only way Miis could kind of move in with each other was if they got married, and even then you get no customization of the house and they barely even live there, they still have their own apartment. Beyond all of this though, there's no pity parties at the cafe where a Mii tries to get cheered up by friends. There's also no quirky questions where one Mii asks a panel of 6 others yes or no hypotheticals you wrote yourself. Things like, would you rather be rich or famous, what superpower would you want, and each Mii raised or lowered their hand to answer. There's no Tomodachi quest, which I'll get to in the charm section, but it deserves a mention here because it was an entire RPG where your Miis went on adventures together and you watch it play out like a little retro video game, and could have your friends or just completely random Miis as the cast. I get why some of these things didn't come back because it is structured very differently, and some of these wouldn't work the same in a more open format, but knowing why something is gone just doesn't make you miss it less. I miss just going into the cafe and seeing these pity parties, seeing these chat sessions, just seeing Miis hanging out in these specific areas doing specific events. I also just liked how it seemed like there was more drama, and it wasn't so easy to make friends. It felt a lot more rewarding and a lot less forced than the 3DS version. Living the Dream, there is still the Ferris wheel, you can see Miis together in there. There's still the restaurant, but it's just not the same. And I feel like 95% of the time when I introduce two Miis, They almost always hit it off. Like, I would love to see more drama, I would love to see more fights, and that's why I'm gonna give the point to 3DS here. Now for creativity, the 3DS version had the ability to write your own lyrics, and your Mii would perform them at the concert in that text-to-speech voice. The intended purpose was just to be a fun minigame. What actually happened is that every single person who got this game immediately opened the song editor as soon as they unlocked it, and just started testing what it would actually let you say here. I'm not gonna tell you what I put in mind because this is a family-friendly channel, but if you had Tomodachi Life in 2014, you don't need me to explain. You were there, you were doing the same thing, we all were. You found ways around the censors as well. Beyond the songs, the 3DS creativity was almost entirely selection-based. Like, here are the hairstyles, here are the clothes, here are the interiors, pick from the options Nintendo gave you. It was customization in the sense that you had choices, but you weren't making anything from scratch. The gap between what you wanted and what the menus allowed was just always visible. Living the dream is not even in the same conversation. Start with the Mii's. Base options are already massively expanded. More hairstyles, more eyebrow shapes, a fuller range of hair colors, and Mii's can now have ears. Once you see the ears on Mii's, it just looks like something has always been missing in the past. But the thing that innovated the Mii creation the most here is the face paint system. You paint directly on your Mii's face with actual layer tools that give you control of what ends up there. These are not just patterns you pick from. You can legitimately make anything you want. So I'm not very good at drawing, but I've spent a lot of time doing micro adjustments to things like the triangles under Humorous's eyes. People way more artistically gifted than me have made Mii's that look like specific real people with an accuracy that should not be possible in this game. I mean, look at the Walter White that I made and the Walter White that this guy made. The 3DS just couldn't have produced any of that. Like, you're always working with the same fixed options. The creativity goes beyond the Mii's too. You design house interiors from scratch, you design the exteriors, the paint, the decorations, the style. You can create custom food and add them into the game for your Mii's to eat and react to. You can make your own clothes. The quick build system lets you pretty much do anything you want. Also worth mentioning is that you could have up to 100 Mii's in Tomodachi Life on 3DS, but only 70 in Living the Dream. Now, I don't think that's a big deal. The Mii's you can make here can be a lot more in depth, and that's a lot anyway. Would I like for there to be more? I mean, yeah, having more content isn't a bad thing, but this has not been an issue for me yet. This is not even close at all. Living the Dream gets the point. The next category I want to talk about is charm, and this is the hardest one to score because it is extremely subjective. So let me start off by saying that this is not a game you play for the systems, like, because you're going to play it because you get attached to what's happening on your island. If the game doesn't make you care about the Mii's, in the words of Metallica, nothing else matters. The Mii news is consistently funny in both. The dreams are consistently unhinged in both. Watching a Mii based on someone you actually know having a complete breakdown over something is hilarious. And in these regards, the games are pretty similar, but there are a lot of differences. The biggest part of the 3DS island is that it felt like it existed when you weren't there, and there were just more events going on. I talked about this in the interaction section, but it deserves more space here because it was the single biggest thing that made the 3DS version feel charming beyond individual funny moments. The events that I mentioned, plus a bunch more like the rap battle, like Judgment Bay, like the barbecue, these are things that were taken out of Living the Dream, and tiny things like this just added so much to the game that it's hard to explain if you haven't played it. Tomodachi Quest, which I did mention, but I want to bring up again, is not a super deep RPG. You literally just fight a giant version of an item as a pretty bare bones RPG, but it's fun. It's not meant to be taken that seriously, but it was something I looked forward to almost every day. But perhaps the biggest thing here is Street Pass, or I should say the Traveler system. The feature I miss more than any other one here, and I don't think it gets enough credit when people talk about the 3DS version, is that you can have people on your own island go to other islands, and you can get travelers from other islands. So the way it worked is when a married couple on your island had a baby, and the baby grew up, you can choose to send them out into the world via Street Pass. They'd wait at the port, and then the next time you walk past someone with a 3DS, your kid would travel to their island, and one of their travelers would come to yours. The traveler would arrive having already lived a whole life on someone else's island, and they'd have their own personality and relationships from back home, and they'd hang around your island in the campground for a while before leaving. And something else they could do is they could write a letter back to their parents, and whatever island that Mii originated from would get that letter, so there'd be a real person reading that letter that was sent from your island. They even had a rank as they visited more islands. There was different outfits they could get. Like, I used to bring my 3DS everywhere to try and get street passes for this when I was playing Tomodachi Life every single day in like 2014 and 2015. Sometimes I would get travelers from friends' islands, but sometimes I'd get travelers from completely random islands, and it was one of my favorite parts of that game. Of course, with Street Pass not being a thing on the Switch, that couldn't come back, but there's no online version of this either. So Living the Dream has its own version of charm, and I don't want to undersell that, because building your own island and then watching your Mii's exist in it is a very charming feeling in this game. When a Mii sits down on a bench you placed in a park you designed in a neighborhood you laid out yourself, that is one of the best feelings in this game. The 3DS didn't offer anything like that, but that doesn't necessarily make it less charming. Another thing the 3DS version had that I really didn't use much, but apparently a lot of people did like, was the ability to post to social media, like screenshots from your game to Facebook or Twitter, and that did not come back in Living the Dream. The reason is extremely obvious, and I can't really blame Nintendo too much for it. The game has no profanity filter, the facepaint tool and just everything in general lets you make anything you want. You can still take screenshots on the console, but you can't just share them from the system. Now, it's very easy to get around this. but Nintendo seemingly just does not want you to share things from this game. Both games have a lot of charm, but I gotta give it to the 3DS version. Now for progression. Both games have the same basic loop underneath. You take care of your Miis, they level up and they get happier, and then new things open up. If you feed them food they like, or give them clothes that fit their taste, or help them with their problems, they level up and then you can give them more things. Those are things that are in both games. But the 3DS version's progression was mostly passive. Things did unlock as you went, like you could get new interactions as you unlock new places, but there's no central system tying it together. You pretty much just unlock buildings, and once you unlocked all of those, that was pretty much it. Living the Dream adds the warm fuzzy system on top and changes the daily feel of the game significantly. Every time you help a Mii out, you earn warm fuzzies. Then you take those to the wishing fountain and spend them on wishes. Each wish gives you something concrete, whether it's a new quirk for a Mii, a new food item, a quick build piece, a new event lock, a new good for me. And also, I haven't talked about quirks yet, but they are very integral to this game. And what I mean by that is they just help to add personality, like minor things like how a Mii walks, how they eat, what they say when they're angry. And honestly, it does add to the charm, which I just forgot to mention in the last section. But it just feels like there's a lot more progression with each individual Miis, as well as the island. Like you could open the game for a couple minutes and get enough warm fuzzies to upgrade. On the 3DS version, you could upgrade specific Miis quickly, but you didn't really get much from those. Now with both games, progression is eventually going to be capped once you unlock everything there is in both games. That is usually towards the end of people's playtime with this when they get bored and move on to another game, but Living the Dream just has so much more to progress on, so it's going to get the point here. So now for the content category, and I mean this one should be self-explanatory. The numbers aren't close here. I think the 3DS version has around like 2,500 items, and Living the Dream has over 9,000. I've been playing Tomodachi Life Living the Dream since launch, and there's still so many things I haven't unlocked. It's probably going to be a while until I see every single item the game has to offer, and even beyond items, just new dream types also. So in terms of actual items you can unlock and things you could buy, it's not close here at all. But the 3DS does deserve credit here because depth of features is not the same thing as quantity of items. I've went over this a couple times, but the 3DS version had many more events and even quite a few locations that didn't make a comeback, like the Travelers, the Spot Pass system, the Image Share, the Concert Hall, the Compatibility Tester, the Rankings Board. That was all content that was just not added to this game. But then I can counter that with Living the Dream's customization system, which I've went over. The amount of extra content you can make yourself and the amount of things you have that you can do with all this creativity, especially when you add that on with all the additional items and the new feature of being able to make your own island. I gotta give it to Living the Dream here, even though I do think the 3DS version actually holds up pretty well. Category 7 I want to go over kind of briefly since these are all things I've talked about, but locations. The 3DS version has more locations, and it does make sense because this game is more segmented. Rather than being an open island, you just press in the location you want to go to on the map. But a lot of these places are not like real locations. You don't actually walk into the town hall, you don't walk into the Image Share, but they technically do count as locations. In Living the Dream, they don't really feel as disconnected, which on the one hand is good because it feels like it integrates into the world, but on the other hand, it just makes it feel like just another place on the map, rather than a different building with more personality. I've already went over all the events, but it just felt like there was more going on in the locations in 3DS, so it's gonna get the win here. Now for the final category I want to talk about, it's just gonna be simple, it's fun. Now this is a lot different than charm, which is also subjective, because fun is just simply how much do you enjoy playing this game. The 3DS version was one of my favorite games for years. Not a few weeks at launch and then occasionally, but I played this game for like the next 2 to 3 years after. And I'm not gonna lie and say that the game was as fun at the beginning as it was towards the end of when I was playing it, but I had a great time with this for a lot longer than I thought. A lot of times when I wanted to play a game for a few minutes but didn't want to play a more demanding game, I just booted up Tomodachi Life and just checked in on a few Miis. I love seeing the interactions, I loved making new songs, I love checking in on the Travelers. This was one of the games I think of first when you mentioned the 3DS. Living the Dream is a different kind of fun. Since it just came out, I've been losing track of time constantly. I've been sitting down to play this for like 20 minutes and then end up playing it for like 2 hours because I get absorbed in wanting to introduce more Miis, making more Miis, adding more to the island. I'm having a great time with this game so far. But my concern about Living the Dream is that since you have to do so much of this yourself, since there's less of those random events and interactions, I feel like eventually it's going to start to wear down. But you know what? I can't answer that question yet. So I don't want to be unfair and give a point to the 3DS version because I had more fun with it overall compared to Living the Dream, because it's not a fair comparison. By the time I'm done playing Living the Dream, maybe I will have had more fun with it. So I'm just going to give each one a half a point here, because I think both are fantastic games that I've had a ton of fun with both. And if you ask me in a year, I could probably give you a solid answer on this. And also, I just want to mention another category I was going to talk about was replayability, but like with fun, I don't think it's fair to give a definitive answer yet. So after going through these categories, I'm sure you can nitpick and say I should have added a few more categories. Living the Dream gets the win here. Now, I'm not even saying that it's the better game here, but I will say looking at these categories that I think are all pretty important, I think Living the Dream is better in a lot of these. And I think the reason that Living the Dream scores higher in a lot of these categories is just because a lot of measurable standards really favor it. You can do more with your island, you have more customization with Miis, you have more items. That is stuff that you could actually measure. But then when it comes to things like charm, events in specific locations, the 3DS version wins those categories. I don't think there's one definitive answer for what game is better. I think it comes down to quite a few things. If you love the world building and expanded features that are in Living the Dream, you'll probably like that better. If you like some more of the quirkier events, social features, which they're pretty much non-existent now in 3DS, but let's just go back to 2014 for a second, then you'll probably like the 3DS version better. Both of these games are very addictive if you're into this type of game, and I don't think there needs to be a right answer, because whatever game you feel is better is the one that's better to you, and that's all that matters. I truly do miss a lot of the things from the 3DS version, but I also really love a lot of the new things in Living the Dream, and I'm excited to see what else I build in this game, and maybe even if Nintendo adds more content. If I come back to this in a year and there's been a lot of updates, then maybe we could even reevaluate some of these. But anyway, go check out my rankings of the Tomodachi Life locations, and I'm sure I have a lot of other content you like. Now come join my Discord if you want to talk more about Tomodachi Life and share any of your creations on there, because I know a lot of people on there are really into this game too. Now be sure to subscribe, and I'll see you next time.